I mean, there's a lot of, it was known that, you were an associate, with the Columbos. Kind of how did that come about? Were you, did you start as a young kid and kind of, work your way up? For me, I see like movies like The Goodfellas, where Henry Hill was parking cars and then, ended up, being an associate. But kind of what was your journey like?
Here's what happened to me, okay? It's a long story. People can read my book and find out exactly everything. Every word in that book is the truth. But I began as a businessman. Even though it was in my blood through my grandfather, but I began as a businessman, and then just through the years, I met Frank Costello, but I was introduced to him through a lawyer named Frank Russo, who was close friends with Frank Costello and Frank's brother, Eddie. Of course, I was a young man when I met him at the Waldorf Hotel. And, when you're a young man like that, you're not getting conversation. Frank had his conversation with Frank, actually with two Franks. All right? But, now when we were walking out and I was looking at all the girls, Frank said, young man, always be a gentleman. And he was a gentleman. Frank was, it's all in the history books of who he was, what he did. They called him the Prime Minister. And that was my first introduction. I never thought much about it. And then I ended up with Frank Russo again and met Russell Bufalino. We had lunch with him in New York. And then when Russell got arrested in Pennsylvania, and they were bringing him to New York City on the charges, he wanted to stop over. They had him in Oneida County Jail. In those days, we had connections in the Sheriff's Department and all the government back there. And Frank and I would bring him pasta and meatballs and food to eat while he was there. And then when I was trying to sell my insurance agency, I got to meet Carlo Marcello. I flew to New Orleans, had a meeting with Carlo at the hotel that he had an office at. However, he liked what I was doing in the insurance business, but he was under investigation for something else in the insurance business. So obviously he was not going to get involved again. And then as a result, I ended up meeting Sonny Franzese, 1978, 79 it was. And Sonny was the underboss of the Columbo family, and he and I became close friends for over 40 years until his death this past February at the age of 103 years old.
And he was the oldest living made member of La Cosa Nostra, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was the oldest at the time of his death. There.
I mean, he went back with Lucky Luciano.
Yeah.
Vito Genovese, loved him.
Yeah. And Sonny Franzese is the father of Michael Franzese, and there too. So, are you familiar with? I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with Michael Franzese. Have you guys connected at all, or do you guys?
Well, I'm sure that you saw my Vlad interviews and other interviews, and you've seen what I had to say about Michael.
Yeah. And
then I ended that feud. After I ended that feud, Michael did contact me through the DM on Facebook. We had a few conversations. He said there's obviously some things that he and I need to discuss. And he was in Napa at the time, and he said he would contact me and we would meet for coffee. That has not transpired yet.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Just seeing an interview with both Michael Franzese and obviously with yourself. I mean, that would be something that would definitely break the internet. As a fan, I'm definitely a fan of watching both your interviews and also with Michael Franzese. So that would be something.
Why do you think that would be a great interview?
Well, one overall, I think, because there's a lot of history between the both of you. Definitely, spending 40 plus years with Sonny. I think your perspective of the relationship with his father. I think there's a lot that you can discuss with him as well. And I don't want to speak on your behalf, but it seems like there definitely could be a personal relationship that I think there'd be value from Michael hearing from someone that was side by side with his father. And maybe it would be a start of a great friendship, but I don't want to speak on your behalf. That's just me as a fan and my perspective.
Well, you know what, Michael, he added my phone number now. So when he contacts me, he and I'm sure we'll have coffee or lunch or something, and we will discuss certain things. Until that time comes, I got no animosity toward anybody. It's not going to be any good for me or anybody with animosity. A lot of people would love for me to continue that feud, but it does me no good at all. I'm into a lot of other things, involved in other aspects of businesses, and my main focus is on the work that I have at hand that I must finish.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't want to see the animosity side. I personally would like to see more collaborations, between like folks like yourself and during.
Well, that would be good because Michael, Sonny brought him up. Sonny adopted him, and he lived in the house with Sonny. I didn't live in the house.
Yeah.
Sonny lived with me when I came to New York. So, my relationship with Sonny would be totally different than Michael's. But
Yeah.
Michael was right there in the house and, having breakfast and dinner and so forth with his father when his father was not in Korea, which was not too often.
I know.